and welcome back to 90s Noise. This is Ashley, born 1988.
I'm April, born 1991.
All right, we're back with another episode of 90s Noise. Today we have a very special guest. We have Mr. Andy Delaney, who is a music video director and also a movie director too. We are very happy that you are joining us here from the UK on this very historic day of coronation for you guys' new king. We told you we had talked to Howard and everything. He was like, you have to talk to Andy. Andy got great stories and loves, he had just great things to say about you also. And so when we were looking at the work he done, it's like, shit, like he's done that. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to talk to you, and or at least reach out and see. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate that. I know Ashley had a couple quick questions. She definitely wanted to ask on a few of those music videos. So go ahead, Ashley.
Okay, so the first one I really wanted to talk about, because we already talked about this on one of our past episodes, was the music video you did for Seal, the Crazy music video.
Yes. Well, hello, girls. Nice to see you. Okay, so let's start with Seal. Well, okay, it's a long time ago, first of all, so my memory's fuzzy. I think that we got the song. Now, I just want to say, when I was doing this stuff in the 90s, I was working with another guy called Monty.
Yes.
We were met at college. He ran the Film Society, and I was doing visual communications. And he got me in. I'll give you a backstory. He got me in to do film projections at a nightclub. This was like the rave era. So we started doing film projections. This does lead to Seal eventually. And, we got quite big. So every weekend we do 2 nights up in London when house music was beginning, and we'd have 6 projectors, and we'd project all this imagery on these huge screens above the dance floor. And it meant every week we had to shoot and edit new material, and this was on film because there was no, so we had these big film projectors. But we got quite groovy, right? And the reason we were called Big TV, which was our name, was because one of the clubs was named after our film installations, because it was going inside a big TV, and so the club called themselves Big TV, and we nicked the name. But when we started, we got to meet a load of kind of up-and-coming artists and stuff, bands who weren't doing anything, like The Beloved and Soul to Soul and Seal, and we would meet them socially, like half drunk in a club, and Seal was one of the people who would hang around. And then we got going and we started making videos, and we really started off with this band there's a woman called Yaz, and she did a song called The Only Way Is Up, and it was a big dance hit over here. And because of that, and the DJ, the musicians behind her were 2 DJs called Cold Cut, and they knew everyone. So we did a video for them, and it was kind of okay. It was, basic. But then Soul to Soul like, well, why don't you try and do one for us? And everyone in London wanted to do that track. Like, it was amazing. So once we got that, then we were away, and so a couple of years later, Seal's people sent us over the song, and when we spoke to Seal, he was like, "Are you 2 those guys who did all that?" And we were like, "Yeah." So we had that connection, and then with Seal, it was just, I can't remember why we had this we just liked videos shot on white backgrounds. We were big fans of that. We were big fans of Paula Abdul's Straight Up for David Fincher. So we thought, we'll do that, but we'll add some stuff. And we were fascinated by, there was this new technology which meant you could do digital copies of things. It was brand new. And so we were like, okay, a motion control had just come in. So we thought, let's do this thing, and we'll put 8 seals on a circular thing and rotate it, and let's try that. And it was a good idea. And that combined with just shooting him on white. And then we shot him like a kind of rock icon. That was the big idea. We were like, is this dance guy, but he looks pretty cool. Let's make him, we just had an idea that he'd be a kind of rock god. So we dressed him like a rock god in leather. You know, we thought, oh, this is fun. He's not going to dress like MC Hammer. He's going to be, like, you know. And it worked out really well, and went huge. And we got nominated for 5 MTV Awards. And I was like, oh my God, didn't win any. But I was like 27 and in LA with Seal. And it was great. And that kind of really cut through internationally, I think, for us, and got so Soul to Soul and then Seal, and we were like, okay, oh Jesus. I think I was still what you call in the UK signing on, which is why you get your housing benefit paid. You know, you're kind of basically unemployed, because we weren't making any money out of videos. We were just spending all of the money on the video. So the idea that we have a fee was like, yeah, of course we've got a fee, but we'll just spend it on the video because I'm getting free money for the government. I get my unemployment.
Okay.
You know? And so for like 3 years, we were not really taking any money home. Like I remember in 1990, I had about $15,000 in the world, and I'd been making videos for 18 months, but we just didn't keep any of it. And you know, it was kind of probably quite a good thing, because it meant even though the budgets weren't huge at that point, we just didn't care. We're like, I don't care if we go over. If we need to shoot another couple of hours, we'll pay for everyone. But I don't care, because it was just such a ridiculously exciting thing to do, to make music videos for these bands, half of whom we kind of knew. I know that's not really a lot of a story about Seal, but that's kind of a bit of a backstory. So that's Seal for you. Lovely man.
That's great. No, like I love music videos. They bring so much more to the story of the song. And I feel like nowadays they kind of are half-assed. Whereas if you look back in the 90s, early 2000s, 80s, all of those, it's much more of a production, at least in my eyes as a viewer. And I love that. And I love hearing these stories about what you guys did with it.
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to say that there was a lot of rubbish made as well. All right, you can't romanticize it. Most of the things, like, we had this philosophy of, we want our videos to be very recognizable in like 3 seconds. So like this iconic imagery. So because there was loads of music videos being made, and there was usually people, the camera would dolly around and there'd be some dancers, and it was just like crap. And it was easy to be better than anyone else. I mean, and that's the arrogance of youth, but and then we would look at really good directors, like David Fincher was our age, but he was very much ahead of us. And this guy called Jean-Baptiste Mondino, who's a French director. And so we just look at the very best in the world and go, well, let's just kind of rip them off. And like, we ripped them off in a way that was unrecognizable because we were so incompetent. But in the kind of study of really good people, you get better very quickly. And I think there became a kind of competition. Howard was in this competition with us, Howard Greenhouse, of like, who can do the better video? Like, he was doing these Pet Shop Boys videos. You're like, oh God, Howard's really kicking ass. And I wasn't really very close to him then. I'm really good friends with him now, but I'm like, fuck, shit, okay. And then Jonathan Glazer did Street Spirit for Radiohead. It was like, fuck, okay, we better do, oh, Jesus. And it was very much, it felt a very small set of people that we were competing with. And there was a load of people out there we didn't bother competing with because we were just crap, you know. But that was what drove our thinking. You know, it was that. And it wasn't, and this is the big admission, they weren't really about the songs. I mean, you know, we'd get a song and then there'd be a vibe, but I wasn't trying to illustrate the lyrics. Never. Like, ever. Like Seal, the Seal video, crazy. What the hell? That video has nothing to do with the lyrics. Like, all this stuff, Soul Back to Life. Like, what the hell's that? You know, we did stuff for The Beloved. I don't know if you've seen this Sweet Harmony video. You should check it out. It was huge. Beavis and Butthead loved it. And that's just a note of another White Side video. And it was, you know, stolen from a Jimi Hendrix album. There was a Jimi Hendrix photograph. I'm rambling, but have a look at The Beloved video. And that was like Jimi Hendrix sitting around with a load of naked women on a background, classic 60s thing. We're like, oh, we could do that, but we could just do it on white and make it a bit more modern. And it was huge. And didn't matter what the song was, right? And then I remember we did this video. You have to check it out. Listeners, viewers, you have to look at Sweet Harmony by the Beloved. It was huge. And I was at home after this video was done in 93. And the phone went and it was Meatloaf. Meatloaf called me and I was a bit stoned, I must say. I was quite relaxed. And it was like, hi, this is Meat. And I was, what? What? And who's what? And he was like, oh yeah, it's me. Is that Andy? I'm like, yeah. And he went, look, I know what it's about. It was so cryptic. And I was like, what are you on about? It's their souls. And I was like, what? Who are you? And he was like, oh, it's Meatloaf. And I was like, okay, this is odd. And I was like, what video are you talking about, sir? And he went, oh, it's The Beloved. And I went, okay. And he's like, yeah, it's all about souls about to be reborn and they're going to come down to earth. And I'm like, is it? I mean, I don't know. It's just like, we were just experimenting with anamorphic flares on white. So it was really fun because stuff like that would happen, you know? And then we went to see Meat in New York. He flew us over to have a meeting about, I'll do anything for love, right? Mm-hmm. And he was like, come to New York and meet me. If you know what the song's about, you can do the video. And we're like, I don't know what the song's about. I think it's quite rude. I mean, I'll do anything for love, I won't do that. That could be very rude, all right? I don't want to talk about that, mate. There's implications there for some kind of sexual activity. So we went to New York and pitched him an idea, and he went, no, that's not what the song's about. And we went home. We met Meatloaf for 10 minutes, and then Michael Bay did it. So it was a very interesting time. There was a lot of money in music videos, which there isn't now. And we got access to some of that money. You know, we started to get bigger budgets, and but these days record companies pay much less for videos generally, which may be why a lot of them are not so great. But I think a lot of them are pretty good. There's still some really good ones. They're just you know, they're really good people working in it. And I just think that's really the same in any era, because you know there's a percentage that is good, and then there's a load of shit. But you can tell the people who are trying to push it forward. You know, there's really good stuff out there, like that Donald Glover thing. What was the Childish Gambino video? This Is America. Oh my God, like that was astonishing. There's loads of stuff. Anyway, that's me just ranting about music videos. Give me another one. I'll tell you about it.
Like, what was your most challenging music video that you shot? Do you have an idea?
That's a very interesting one. They're usually, okay, that's a good question. Okay, I've got one for you. Now, I'll tell you about the famous one. I've got a few. But George Michael and Mary J. Blige. Okay, that was tough because we went to see George. Okay, we'd done this video for All Saints called Never Ever. And we did this one shot in it. And we pulled back from the girls. And then as you pull back, there's more girls. And we did this another digital clone thing. And George was like, I love your videos, guys. But that particular shot, I want that for a whole video. And I want me on one side of a church. This was the original George Michael idea. Again, people at home, check it out. I want loads of me and loads of Mary J. Blige. But we're in a church. And we're two choruses, two choirs, singing opposite each other. And we do the, vocals back and forth in some second, right? We're a big gang of us. And we're like, okay, George. And he took us out for lunch near his house in Highgate. We're like, okay, it's not a shit idea, George, at all. Why don't you get the coffees in? We're going to walk around the block and have a think about it. And literally, while we walked around the block, we were like, oh, God, that's a bit boring. That will be crap. And so, what about? I can't remember if it was me or Monty, but we were quite irreverent. We were like, "What about George goes into a club, and everyone in there is George Michael, and then you turn around, and then everyone else is Mary J. Blige, and then the camera just explores this club where everyone's either George or Mary." And we're like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool." No idea how to do it. Like no idea, none. Right? And just went back in and went, "Yeah, we do this," and he went, "Oh, that's yeah." Okay, that's a better idea. He didn't even ask if it was possible. And which it really, we pretty much invented the technology with Buddies at Framestore. And that was so hard to do because in the video, sometimes there's 140 takes of different Georges around the club that have to be stitched together. Which you get this motion control camera that's a robot camera that repeats the move. So you've got to do 140 takes of one shot. And you've got 4 minutes to film, right? And the camera would occasionally break down. And
would expect it, yeah.
so we had a 5-day shoot planned, and on day 5, Mary had to go back to the States. Mary J. Blige, by the way, well, George Michael, amazing. Mary, astonishing. When I made Mary a cup of tea on the first day of the shoot, I was like, "How do you have your tea, Mary? Milk and sugar? No milk, sugar. Do you have tea? You're American. You don't know about tea, but let me make one for her." She was so touched that the director would make her a cup of tea because she was used to it in the States. The directors she worked with were quite uppity and not very nice. And so that, I honestly completely won her over. She was so full of joy on this shoot because I'd made her a cup of tea. So that's one thing. But the shoot overran because of these technical things. So on day 5, we still hadn't finished and she had to go home. And we had the last shot of the video to do, which is 45 seconds of the song, and no Mary, which is a bit of a problem. So we found a body double, and we shot the body double in every single of the 140 takes with not looking at camera. So we had to choreograph it so that you wouldn't tell. And we didn't. But that was tricky. And we were all so tired. Like half the crew were just sleeping on the floor at night. We wouldn't go home. We were shooting in this big old place in East London. And we're doing 16-hour days. And then by the end, it was like 17-hour days. And then it got to 18-hour days. And then by the time you get to 18-hour days, you're exhausted. You can't be asked to try and go home and get 3 hours sleep. So people were just asleep. Just bring a bloody sleeping bag. So it was like going to camp. George would go home, thank God, and we'd always practice the shots in the morning with stand-ins so that George wouldn't have to be there for the first 2 hours of bullshit. But that was really hard. Then the Lauryn Hill one was tough.
Yes, I was going to ask about that one.
Yeah, that was great. She said, her brief was, "I want something a bit 60s and a bit 90s," right? Because she was doing this kind of new soul thing. And when we were like, really literal, simple-minded fools, and we're like, okay, what about this? It's half 60s and half 90s. So one side of the screen is in the 60s, and then the other half's in the 90s. And we'll do it in we'll do it in a school gym, like prom night, and we'll split the screen all the time, and it'll be 60s prom night and 90s and like that. And she was like, "Yeah, that's a bit not really my culture. That's more of a white boy thing." We're like, okay, yeah, you might be right. Because we nicked it off Greece. We were looking at Greece, going, "Oh, we'll just do Greece." And so we went, "What about a street party?" And she went, yeah, let's do a street party. So then we had to figure out how to do that. And we joined the Harlem Museum of African American History, Harlem Library of African American History. So we lived in New York for 6 weeks, did all this research at the library, went to Lauren's house, met her mum and dad, looked at the photo albums of what her parents were wearing, blah, 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 did all this stuff, and really got deep into the kind of history, the social history, to get it right. And then we had to deal with the fact that she was 7 months pregnant and didn't want the record company to know. So in the video, she's nearly 7 months pregnant. She's 6.5, and so we had to do it, and we had to shoot 2 Laurens in different wardrobes, match them up, but in neither of them were we allowed to make her look pregnant. And she was a big girl at the time because she said, "Oh, if they know I'm pregnant, they won't promote the album. So you do the video. It's a great idea, but make sure I don't look pregnant." We're like, okay, okay, all right, that's just another thing. All right. And so we got this brilliant wardrobe stylist in, a friend of ours called Kim Bowen, who designed the outfits. And then we had to shoot her in a very specific way. And we shot the whole of the 90s, so which is on the right-hand side of I know we shot the 60s first. And then what we did was we shot for 4 days up in Washington Heights, with the whole set dressed as the 60s and like 150 extras all in wardrobe. Lauren with her kind of, Motown style backing band. Marked every single shot on the sidewalk with spray can so that we could come back a week later when we'd edited that side of the video to where the camera was, to put it, get it back to the same position, move it over a bit, line it up, and then position everything. So it was really technical, right? It was very basic technology. It was nothing clever. It was just being very organized about how we did that. And Lauren was just fantastic to us, but she was quite grumpy with other people, and she was not very pleasant to the wardrobe lady in the end, and production and stuff. She was, she's extremely lovely to me, but I think, in her defence, she was under enormous pressure. She'd done this album, she got pregnant, she knew that, she just got out of the Fuji. She was big, and she was paranoid that they were just going to kind of bury the record because she's pregnant, she can't promote it. So I think that was why she was a little bit under pressure. And things happen, like one of the extras turned up on day 3, came back to the shoot with a gun and held up the casting department. So there was a department set up to give everyone like $100 at the end of the day or whatever, So they had a big bag of cash to give the extras. And this kid turned up and just robbed us. So that was fun, So that was I don't think that was hard. I just think it was a lot of work. And because there was a sufficient budget for us to live in New York for 6 weeks, we were able to be so prepared that we could make a really good video. And it won everything. I mean, I've got my MTV award up there. That's for Lauryn Hill. That little silver thing.
Yeah, the Moon Man. I see it.
Yeah, it is. So that was tough. Other tricky ones, I don't know, you kind of forget. I think the ones that... Oh, okay, here's one. Did you see the Sinead O'Connor video?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that went horribly wrong. Because we had this idea, and Sinead was nice, and she wanted to use wolves. The only thing she said was like, "Oh, it's about the family, and I want to use wolves." And we're like, "Okay, well, all right." And so we didn't. We used dogs, nice doggies. But she was quite erratic, not in an unpleasant way. She just would really be on her own schedule and time scale. So she'd be a little bit late, And so we shot this video in a specific part of London called Borough Market, which looks really Victorian. It's been gentrified now, but then it looked like 19th century because we wanted it to look Victorian. And it's a big market where it's food market, and they have the market in the morning, and then at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock it shuts, and then they bring all the food and stuff in for the next day in huge lorries, which were travelling up and down the road we were filming on. But we didn't mind because we were like, well, we'll be pretty much done by 3 o'clock. Not so much done if Sinead doesn't turn up till 11. So then we were shooting Sinead, and we had rain machines and fog and kids and dogs and all this crap. But from 3 o'clock on, every 15 minutes an articulated lorry would come, like a big 18-wheeler would come through the set. So we'd have to pull all the lights out, the camera, reset, go again, 15 minutes to go. Okay, that was a ball ache. And then she got grumpy because it was taking so long, and it was like, mate, all you had to do was rock up at 8 o'clock and we'd be fine. So easy there, Sinead. And so the video was so problematic in the shooting that we shot a day without her, with a body double, some dogs and stuff like that. And then we had this idea of, we shot super high speed water drops, and we put babies inside them. Like, we shot these babies. It was all like about death and the loss of generations. That was quite nice, but we could do that without her. And then we put a load of text over everything because it was so we were so lacking in material that we put a load of writing all over it in a very arty way. Got a Grammy nomination. So what can I tell you? Out of adversity comes not shit sometimes. So so there's some what I like to call horror stories, but they weren't really horror. None of it was really. I'm trying to think of this we never made a video for her, but the woman I think would have been the most problematic to work with was, can you guess it, Madonna?
Yeah,
wouldn't be surprising.
So we were up for several Madonna videos and went to meet her, blah blah blah, and it didn't happen. We got booked and then we got unbooked, and we got paid to do a Madonna video but didn't shoot it. But she was quite tricky. And I remember going to see her, and we got there late because our car broke down and we had to push it up a road. And we were like, honestly, it's like, I'm going to see Madonna. Oh, we've run out of petrol a mile away.
Oh no!
And I turned up sweating and covered in rain, and there's all these kids outside. It's like a nightmare. And then she came. We went into her house and she had a fire on, and oh god! And I was just like, right, boiling. And we had no idea. Didn't have an idea. I'd seen one photograph I think that I liked, and I was like to Monty. That's all. He said, if you got it, we'd do this when we'd meet up and go for a walk around Soho. That's how we'd come up with ideas. And like the day before the meeting, he was like, have you got anything? I went, no. And he was like, this is for Frozen.
Okay.
It's called Frozen. And I went, no. And I got one thing. It was really crap, not crap, it's just thin. And so we were kind of nervous going into the meeting to meet Madonna and really have a bit of a nothing. And she was so rude. I was making small talk. I was like, oh, you've worked with Mark Romanek. I don't know if you know who he is. Mark Romanek is a video director. Amazing.
Sounds familiar.
Lenny Crow, check him out. And so I was like, oh, you've made some videos with Mark. He's amazing. You know, he's a friend of ours. He's great. And she was like, don't talk to me about that. C word. And that's nice as an opening. I mean, I've only just sat down, Madge. Jesus, mate. And you're slagging off Mark. So that set the tone. And
wow.
So to be quite stressed, sweaty, wet, under pressure, with Madge. Oh yeah, this is one fun detail for the ladies and gentlemen. She was wearing, when we got to her house, she was wearing a kind of crown of flowers in her hair, like a ring. But it wasn't on straight, it was like on wonky. So you kind of look at her and go, just a little thing that makes the whole day. So you're talking to Madonna, but you can't quite take her seriously. Because she's just, what are you doing? And then while we were doing the meeting, there was these two guys in the other end of the room. And then when we came in, she said, oh, come and meet Maurizio and Fabrizio or whatever. Like, there's these two Italian guys. And I was like, oh, right, yeah, whatever. I thought they were the stylists. I just thought, and they were very camp and, oh, hello, whatever. And it was Dolce & Gabbana. It was actually them. I didn't know.
Wow.
I didn't know, right? And so I don't know, Monty knew. And Monty was really being nice. And I was like, that's fine, but I don't know. And I don't know. And then part of the small talk, after the Mark Romanek thing, there was a load of Dolce & Gabbana clothes all over the kind of coffee table in front of us, a load of lingerie and knickers and stuff. And I said, as part of small talk, I was like, oh, I see you've got a lot of Dolce & Gabbana stuff here. Is there a sale on? Is there a sale on? Like Madonna would need to go buy, because I'm an idiot, I'm a peasant. And Monty just looked at me like, and she just looked at me. And I was just some sweaty lump, you know, talking about, is there a sale on? And yeah, anyway, so that was Madonna. Fun days, fun times. So that's, yeah, anyway, far away. Any more? What else would you like to know?
I just gotta say on that point, that is a story that you can't get anywhere else. Like that
No.
is just so real, and I love that. And that's part of what our podcast is about, is like getting the real details.
Well, okay, I'll give you the coda for your podcast. So we get up to go, and as I say, I've been hot. I was hot, sweaty. I was covered in rain from the pushing the car, and I stand up, and I'm like, "Well, nice to meet you, you know, blah, 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 you know." And as I stand up, Madonna's looking behind me because I've sat on a chair full of her lingerie, and my hot, greasy bottom, my jeans, had got stuck to all of this lingerie, which as I walked out of the room, they fell off my ass. Right. And that was how I left. Goodbye. Plop, 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 plop. See you later. Bye, boys. So, yeah, it's a good one. That's a good. I have told that story to my missus, and she's heard it many times. But it's quite, yeah, it was quite. It was ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. So
I fucking love that. That's just great. I do love that. And so, us being 90s kids and everything,
yes.
one of the biggest music artists that has come from the UK for us is Spice Girls.
Oh yeah. Oh, we should talk about the Spice Girls. I forgot.
Yes, please.
Oh, the Spice Girls. Okay, so this is fun. So when the Spice Girls, we were in competition with this guy Vaughan, who'd done their previous video. Like, no, we weren't in competition. He was like a friendly rival. We just thought he was really good. He was one of the guys or girls. There's some brilliant women, female directors, that we were like, shit, fuck. And he'd done a video for the Spice Girls. We're like, oh god. And no one really thought the Spice Girls were any good. They were just a kind of girl band. But they were good. They were good, but we were being snobby. Anyway, we got asked by Virgin. We'd done a load of videos for Virgin, and they asked if we'd do it. And we were like, mate, we're so busy. I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly. And they're like, oh, go on, give us an idea. And so the song was a kind of Christmas song. And we got sent it, you know, you get sent it in like July, right? And, but we were like, busy doing commercial on them. We're like, okay, we can do something, but we'd have to do it at the end of September. And when it's a Christmas record coming out, they want the video first of November because they've got to push it earlier, October. They want it ready. So we're like, well, okay. So we always thought Christmas for us was New York. Actually, the ultimate Christmas location is New York because it's just so romantic and magical. It's not. Where else would you do it? You go the Swiss Alps. You want to be in New York, man. You want to be in New York. So we were trying to think. Okay, we're going to do it in New York. We want to do it, and we just had this image of an empty New York. The idea was that the Spice Girls are wandering around a completely empty New York, which is just magical. You can explore it. It's your own playground. There's nothing. It's not full of people. It's just this magical moment. And how are we going to do it? And we did some research and we're like, okay, to get rid of the traffic, because what we knew we'd have to put them in later. We knew that we couldn't take them with us. They were big. They could, you know. And so we proposed, don't worry, we'll go to New York. We'll shoot it in a way using long exposure photography. We'll get rid of the traffic, get rid of the people. And but after the and so we went out and started shooting these background plates. But we got to the first day back and we were like, oh shit, there's a load of streaks all over it, you know. And then we were like, that's quite good. That's quite good. We did toy with getting rid of the streets and having these empty streets, but the streets were really beautiful. So we did that, and that was part of the thing that was amazing about that was we had to shoot all that. It takes like shoot a 10-second clip because you're shooting long exposure. I don't know if you know what that is in photography. So you hold the shutter open for 10 seconds per frame, and you do 25 of those a second. So that's 250 seconds of your life to get 1 second of film. And that's 4 minutes. So 4 minutes of filming to get 1 second, right? And you've got the Spice Girls song, which is 4 minutes long. So you're like, oh God, this is going to take a while, right? And we wanted to move the camera and do it. So anyway, so we went to New York and started shooting these things, and we realized that the only way we could do the whole project, because we were so short time, was if we flew on Concorde. And I'd always wanted to fly on, we didn't realize that. That's bullshit. I wanted to go on Concorde because I was like, I'm a big fan of planes. So we told Virgin, look, we'll do the Spice Girls, man. Of course we will. Be great. But we have to fly on Concorde. Okay. And so they went, yeah, okay. It was just crazy. They flew us to New York and Concorde. But the point of this story, and there is one, is that it was we shot such a long time every night from like 6 in the evening till 5 in the morning, and then sleep and go, and we did that for 5 days. And on the last day, last night, we shot till 5 in the morning, went back to the hotel, had a shower, went to the airport, got on Concorde, went back to England, not having slept, like really tired, and had to go straight to the studio to get prepared to shoot the Spice Girls the following day. So we were so sleep deprived, it was insane. And then when it came to the shoot of them, they were at the height of their mania, and there were hundreds of kids have somehow found out where the video was being shot. So it was like Beatlemania. It was insane. You'd have to fight through crowds. And the second morning of the shoot, somebody broke in through the toilets, and there was some 13-year-old boy had broken through a window. And the girls were lovely, and the girls, they were made sure that security brought him to the set, and they gave him a kiss, and they did, and they were just like so great. I loved them. It was so great, and it was every morning they would come in, and the management would bring all the newspapers to the set. So while they're being made up, they'd have all the British newspapers and American, because they were in everything, and they read out stories, and they were hilarious, and we just had like the best time. And am I allowed to swear on your podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. All right. On day 2, Emma Baby Spice was being filmed, and by the first day we all got on really well. And so there's a guy on a film shoot who's called a gaffer, and the gaffer is the one who does the light, who puts the lights up, and he was called Johnny Diamond, right? And he was like a 65-year-old. He looked like a butcher, like a classic London geezer, red face, lovely bloke. We worked with him for ages, lovely. And we get Emma goes up to the stage, and we get the shots lined up, and we get the New York background plate, and so we know what we're going to do. And while she's getting ready, getting makeup on, Johnny's like, "Oh, good morning, Emma. You look gorgeous up there, Emma. You look gorgeous this morning, darling." Right, like that. And she says, because she's from London, "Good morning to you, Johnny. Well, if I look so fucking gorgeous, why don't you fucking come up here and fucking fuck me?" And it absolutely silences the set. And she's in a little Baby Spice outfit. So that was them, and they were just great. And then we did another one which went really badly wrong. We did Mama, but that video did really well. And it was, once we'd shot it, wasn't very hard to edit. It was like just compositing and stuff. And then we did Mama, and Mama went really badly wrong because we had this stupid idea, really. We brought their mums in, and we filmed them, and that was all great. We got to meet their mums. But then we were going to do this kind of kids' TV show idea, and the set was delayed, and a light fell off from the ceiling and nearly hit somebody. And there was all this health and safety. And so the video got kind of screwy. And then we didn't do any more from after that. And then I think Howard did one. I think Howard did a video for the Spice Girls, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Did he say he liked them? I mean, I liked them. Did he like them?
He said he did. He enjoyed working with them, and because he did, what was it, Goodbye?
Yeah, the kind of something shot in Northern Ireland, I think, or Dublin. Yeah.
And the castle and everything.
Okay.
Like frozen, things are frozen.
Okay.
So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they were great, and I bumped into what's it called? What's her name? Victoria a few years later. But yeah, with David Beckham. She was nice. I mean, these are all nice people. So they are. What is interesting is they're not my friends. I mean, there's a couple of people I still see, like the Beloved, band called the Beloved, and there's a few, but just musicians, man. They're good people. They're good people. I met some who were not so great, like Puffy was a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was a bit of a nightmare. And I mean, not to me too much, but he came with a bad reputation. He was pretty. So one story, and it's not about me, and I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a music video he was doing, and he wasn't happy with the edit, and the director was in England, but the edit was going on in Los Angeles, and so Puffy got his boys to go around to the editor's house. I don't know how he found out. At like 11 at night, got him up and forced him to go to the edit and bullied him into editing, and was quite threatening behaviour. It was just kind of, there was a thing at the time in hip hop that there was an edge to things that was not great, because it was getting really big. And I really wanted to do a video with him, with Puffy. I like the music, but didn't really work. And what would happen is a lot of the guys would travel with a 60 deep posse, their friends, and that could get and those guys are there just to have a good time, and they're going to hang out with the girls, and they're going to do, and it just got like, and we got sent a lot of hip hop tracks after Lauryn, and couldn't really connect with anyone because we just didn't want to do the cliche things, of cars and hip hop girls and booty shaking. It was like, that's not us, because the Lauryn Hill video, although it was kind of hip hop video, it was not like the standard things, so yeah, and we did Usher, which was nice. He was nice, but that was tricky. Poor Usher, because we did that pop your collar thing, and during the shoot, Babyface, or one of the guys, is it Babyface, and I can't remember who the other guys, and his manager and producer came down to the shoot and said, "Oh, we're not gonna. Your album is bad. You're gonna have to re-record the whole thing."
Oh no.
Yeah, and we were like, "Oh man, could you tell him when we finish shooting?" Because it's kind of bummed him out, because he went into the trailer and came back like not Mr. Cheerful Usher. We're like, "What's happening, man?" He went, "They just rejected my album." Anyway, where should we start shooting? It was really miserable. Yeah. So yeah, that was tricky, but I would have liked to have done more stuff. We worked with a lot of black artists. We worked with, obviously Seal, the Happy Mondays, not the Happy Mondays, Seal, Soul to Soul. We did one called Carleen Anderson. We did Lauryn. We did a few, and I really like working with that kind of music. It was great. And we never really did rock stuff. We were going to work with Radiohead a few times. You met them a few times, and they were nice. Tom York was very grumpy. He wouldn't turn up. Yeah, and I met him in about 26, and he apologised. I said, "It's nice to meet you, man, but you were really quite unpleasant when I first met you." And then he was like, "Okay, what did I do?" And he said, because we were meeting them for Fake Plastic Trees, that song.
Okay.
Know that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then we had quite a good idea. And we went into EMI, we met the commissioner, we met the band, all the band there, and they loved it. They loved the idea. We had this idea that there was this kind of tour bus with Radiohead that crashes, and there's a horrendous car crash, and they all stagger out, and they're dead. I mean, you don't explain this in the video, and they're covered in soot and ash, and there's just plastic shit, there's just rubbish that's come pouring out of this bus, and there's this lonely bus on a highway in the middle of America with plastic shit everywhere, and the band's covered in oil and dirt and huge plumes of smoke, and that was the idea, right? It's quite different to what ended up being done, and the band loved it, and then Tom turned up 2 hours late. We explained it, and the band explained the video to him. It was like Ed explained it to him, and he went, "No, I don't want to do it. Okay, I've got to go." And he was there for 10 minutes. Less. Wow. 5. And it was, so when I saw him, I was like, yeah, you did that. It was like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry. I was a bit under pressure. I was a bit of a dick because he had some mental health issues and was a bit and he didn't like the idea that we'd started the meeting without him. And it was like, again, just turn up. It's because I've got a very strict 15-minute rule for meetings, which is if you're not there after 15 minutes, you at least call to say I'm going to be late. Or you actually don't want to be there, and in which case I'm going to go because it will save us all the embarrassment. So that's stood me. I've lost probably some jobs for that, but I've been like what with Sinead O'Connor and Tom York taught me about the value of not being stood up. So I employ that in daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's also common courtesy. Like you have a meeting with somebody, you either be there for it or you let them know something's come up.
Yeah. Don't you think? It's just, I don't care if you're a big pop star, you know? Don't, because if you act like that, this is the thing. See, I think these little things are very revealing. If you're very famous and you slip into behaving like that, then you're not a good person. And there's so many great people. George was amazing. Adam from Maroon 5 was amazing. There's so many lovely people. So many. And they're really famous. And they're more famous than you, Sunshine. And they're not dicks. So, you know, you don't have to do it. But I have to say, my experience of it was just magical. And you know, I wanted to be in a band when I was at college. And I can't play or sing. But, you know, this was as close as I could get. And so with Maroon 5, we pitched them an idea that we'd shoot it at Abbey Road, where the Beatles filmed their records, just so we could go and hang out on Abbey Road. And they wanted to hang out on Abbey Road. And we're all dicking around at Abbey Road, having pictures taken of each other, like, you know, and making a video. And Adam would be posing at the piano where they wrote Hey Jude. And, you know, it was just... Yeah. I just love that. I love the fact that that musicians on one level, outside of all of the marketing thing, are fans and they're enthusiastic. And if you get them talking and existing in their kind of music mode rather than their famous person mode, they like it because, you know, it's like why they're doing it, you know. Most of them didn't start off. Maybe they wanted to be famous, but the fame wasn't the real motivator. It was music, you know. So I've always found that with dealing with bands and artists, it's like if you can relate to them on a musical level. And I don't know anything about music particularly, but I can talk to them about the song and where do you get the idea and what's the production and who's you know, and you can just set people at ease because I'm not saying, oh, how many Instagram followers you got, or what, do you know what I mean? I mean, that was after my era, really. But yeah, that's why I take on famous people.
Yeah. Now, what about Paula Abdul? You guys did like three videos for her in a single year. Oh, almost a single year.
Yeah.
91 and 92.
We did. Oh, that was so weird because we got. Okay, good question, because I've forgotten about Paula Abdul. We were groovy, we were officially groovy. So we got, in 1990, we were flown to LA from London and given a house to live in. It was amazing. And this is because of Soul to Soul and some of these, the videos were big. And we did a couple of Duran Duran videos. They were huge. And Virgin, who we were friends with people at Virgin because we did Soul to Soul with them, they were like, we think you should do Paula Abdul. And all I knew about Paula Abdul was David Finch had done a couple of videos for her. Like, and anything he did, I was like, okay, I'm in that. I want to be in that club. So we went to meet her and she was just great. I mean, it was great. And that was the biggest budget we had at the time. We did Promise of a New Day. And we did this thing. There's these lenses that you can use called anamorphic lenses. I don't know if you know about these things. Mm-hmm. So in old days of Hollywood, you'd get these panoramic cinemas that were super wide, but you'd shoot them on a lens that makes everyone really skinny, and then you have another lens when you project it to make them go to the normal size. But if you don't fix the skinniness, people stay skinny. And so we use this lens to make and we didn't make it back to normal. So we kind of made Paula all tall and skinny, which she loved. All right. And we shot stuff in Hawaii, put her in Hawaii, did all this stuff. And she loved it. I mean, and it was a big hit at the time because In Living Colour did a parody of the video and blah, blah, blah. And so we were just best mates and we would hang out, and she flew us to Tokyo just to talk about a video. I mean, it was insane. So we did the whole In Bed with Madonna thing. We went to Tokyo and drove in the van back and forth to the arena with her and the dancers and the musicians and try and figure out a video idea. And then she'd go on stage and we'd say, okay, see you later. And she'd do a big arena show. And then we'd all go and have a curry, get in the van. It was really like being at the heart of superstardom. And she was so nice. She was so nice. And then we got asked to do Blowing Kisses in the Wind. And that was like, you've got to shoot it in a day. You just got a day because I've got to, not she would, the management, the record company, like, do something, whatever it is, do something, but you got one day. So we shot that, which was really, I really enjoyed that. It was a great little video. And then we did Will You Marry Me? And it just was, that was crap. It was crap. We just, oh God, we tried to do some video technology thing. It's terrible. So the song was pretty bad. But I loved her. I thought she was great. I really enjoyed working with her. Yeah, and it was very odd to be these kids from London who we were kind of like hip rave culture kids wearing our groovy t-shirts. And then with Paula Abdul. But she was the same age as me. She was just a nice woman and a really good dancer. And I loved all the dancers. And I'd go to the rehearsals, like, I'd be sitting there going, you lot are really good, you know. Like, God, you must practice, you know. So, yeah, it was great. It was a really joyful time. And then I remember being in a bar with David Fincher. And he'd done these videos for Paula. And then he was in the middle of doing Alien 3. And he had a horrible experience. And I met up with him and went out on the town in LA. And we were in the bar when Nirvana's Smell Like Teen Spirit came on. And neither of us had seen it. And we just watched it and went. And we were like, our career's over. We're fucked. Like, we're fucked. This is going to take over everything. And we just got really drunk. And, I mean, his career's done fine. I mean, I did okay. But it was interesting to be with him at that point because it was such a turning point when Nirvana hit and everything went grunge. And then videos became a very different thing for a few years. They became very indie and kind of lo-fi, which I didn't like. Because I was just trying to learn as much as I could and be, you know, professional. And anyway, yeah, Paula Abdul, lovely.
Did you feel like there was a project that you worked on that like majorly impacted your career at all?
Well, the Lauryn Hill did. Like Lauryn Hill, I mean, once you win a bunch of MTV awards, and that was the biggest video of the year, and so we got sent a load of commercials, and I spent like 3 or 4 years we didn't do a load of videos actually. I did George afterwards, and we were going to do Madonna, but we ended up getting sent loads of big budget commercials, which was like, oh great, we can get paid now, you know. And so we did them for like 3 or 4 years, and we got attached to movies which didn't happen, so it made a big difference. And I think if one of those movies had happened then, it would have been fantastic. That was like 2000, 2001. We should have done a movie and it didn't happen. Then another one came and didn't happen. And so there was a moment when our career was like really amazing. And then just sheer Hollywood bullshit stopped the movies from... We were going to do a film with Vince Vaughn and Zooey Deschanel. It was great. It didn't happen. And it would have been hilarious. A really good film. But yeah, Lauryn Hill probably. But in the early days, Soul to Soul, Seal, those things. We did a video for Enigma. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was quite clever. That got us a lot of attention because that was quite cutting edge technology back then. But there's been a few, you know, of these things. And then what you don't know at the time is there may not be many of them. Because you're on a roll and you think, oh, I'll do this video and then I'll do another one and it will be just as good. And actually what you realise that some videos are better than others, and sometimes you can't make a better one. You know, you can make a different one, but it doesn't hit the zeitgeist. Maybe the song's not as good. Now, you might have done a brilliant job, but it's for some song that no one cares about, you know. So that's how it goes. At least I did them. And and we were lucky enough, and I know Howard was the same. We were lucky enough when people really watched and cared about music videos because there was no internet. It was the 90s. And MTV was really big, so people knew what you were doing because everyone watched TV. And now you do a music video, and unless it's for like, I don't know, I don't even know who's like Taylor Swift. No one's seen it. It's just on YouTube.
That's true.
So yeah, it was good. I was at the right place, right time.
That's wonderful. Now I do have to ask, because I know this wasn't 90s, but it was 2006, I think, is when you guys did this. But Jesse McCartney, you guys did a music video for Jesse McCartney, right where you are.
Absolute seminal piece of work. It was. It could have been good. He was a nice guy. And it could have been interesting, but it was an interesting idea about this. And again, it was nothing to do with the song. We just wanted a guy whose world was changing around him all the time and was stuck in a time loop. So it was like Groundhog Day meets like Eternal Sunshine and Spotless Mind meets, whatever. And we had all these, and it was and it didn't work because we just didn't quite have the money to do the stuff. But what was interesting about that, a really nice guy, but he was 17 at the time, like 17 or 18. And I was like 40 something, in my early 40s. And it was too weird that this kid, who literally could have been my son, one of my, 17-year-old, and I had this complete moment of like, shit, if this 17-year-old doesn't like what I'm doing, I have to do something, And it was a very strange moment where you go, I think my time's done. I think it's like time to move over. Like when you're a sports player, okay, you've had your go. You can't play baseball anymore, Granddad. You're too. What was really great was when you're the same age as the bands. Like that, just perfect. That's just perfect. So young people should be doing music videos, in my opinion. I still do it for my mates, but not as a career, because I don't think you can swim in the zeitgeist in the same way, and you shouldn't do it. It's fine. Move on. You can do something else. But that was the turning point, Jesse. And it was, like I say, he was really nice. But there was this stupid shit. We were shooting all these kind of scenes, and there's a thing on a motorbike, and they made us put a helmet on him, and he looked like such a dick. And that, for me, that ruined the entire video, because I could never get past. He's got a fucking stupid safety helmet, and he looks like a kindergarten kid going on a fucking tricycle. And like, what? It's clearly a back projection. We're in a studio. Why are you giving him a helmet? It was a record company. It was health and safety. Fuck that. It looks stupid.
Wait, you guys were in the studio and they required the helmet?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to look like he's on a motorbike. We're like, no, it's supposed to look ridiculous. It's supposed to look fake. Look, we've got, scenes appearing and disappearing and lampshades just coming, like, street lights coming around. Then suddenly he's on a subway, and then the studio appears. There's all this quite clever stuff. But yeah, we never left the studio in bloody Burbank. And what the fuck's he got a hat on? So,
oh my gosh, that's insane. Like, that's kind of, I guess, in a sense, a little bit of the music video magic is certain things that you may think, oh, are they out on location? Oh no, they're just in a fucking studio.
Yeah, no, and the Spice Girls, for years, no one realised that they didn't come to New York, which I thought was completely obvious that they were in a studio, but I don't know, But that's the magic of cinema, But I think the videos that I've done that still look good were shot for real. I mean, the Spice Girls still looks good, George still looks good, but there's a lot of other ones which just camera with, wasn't, because a lot of 90s stuff looks very dated, because the colours are really lurid and there's something cheap about the whole thing, which everyone was having fun with at the time. But if you get too stuck in your era, I think it's just going to date really badly. Not that anyone cares at the time, because they just want to be like, what's hip in 96? But, what's hip in 96 will look a bit less hip 15 years later.
Yeah.
But if you go kind of classical in the colours and the styling, and even the styling, like the Spice Girls styling looks kind of 90s, but it's come back, isn't it? It's still it's okay. And Lauryn, because we set half of it in the 60s, it's fine. The whole thing, it's fine. It just looks like timeless, really genuinely timeless. So Yeah, it's interesting how some things hold up, and I think a lot of videos that are being made now will hold up. Actually, there's a lot of videos now are much more narrative driven, and you know they're not reliant on lots. Some of them are very cartoony, and the special effects will look naff. But I don't know, man. I have a lot of time for people making music videos now. I think they're good people. I like them.
So you did finally do a movie, Love is Blind, which we both watched. Would
Yeah.
you mind telling us a little bit about that experience and
Yeah.
how it was different from like shooting a music video?
Yeah, so this was with a woman. It was. I mean, we were overdue. I mean, I was in my 40s when we made it, and I was like, and we'd worked with the producer before. And we tried to make these films, didn't happen. Got that one, and then originally it was a $10 million movie with Anne Hathaway in the lead, right? And then Anne Hathaway pulled out, and they were like, "Okay, can you do it for 1 million? You're clever." And so we tried, and we managed to make it. It was an interesting story, and we managed to figure out a way to make it for like $1.5 million, which is crazy. But we got really good cast. We got Aidan Turner, we got Chloe Savini. People liked the story because the script was really interesting, really dark and interesting. And so we made it, and it wasn't that hard. I mean, I've been making stuff for a long time. I was nervous, but I wasn't that nervous. Like I've been on set forever. So it's like, it's fine. We had to make it in 19 days, which is quick. 19 days to do a movie with a load of special effects in it. Yeah, it was, but what happened, which was sad, was the edit became a bit of a mess, and we made a lot of mistakes. It could have been really a really good film, but to get it to be made for that money, some scenes had to be cut for logistical reasons. So this is what goes on sometimes. You've got a scene that is really important for the story, but it's 30 miles away. The location takes you 2 hours to get there with the crew. And you can't do it if you're keeping the budget to a certain number and there's something to shoot days. So that scene has to go, not because you think it's a good story decision, but because you can't get the trucks there in time. So cut it. And so there were some of those decisions throughout the script. And so it became slightly less coherent than it should. And then you realize I needed that. And when you're in the pre-production process, there is a lot of pressure from your producers and people to be a team player, they call it. And don't fight for scenes. Like, why are you be a team player? We just need to, it makes sense. And part of you's going, no, but if we don't have this scene, honestly, the story doesn't work. And they're like, yeah, but what else do you want to lose? This makes sense. So that happened before we shot. And then in the edit, you're trying to repair a story that's got holes in it. And so I think the film suffers from that. I think it's a magic realist. And if you watch the film in scenes, it's great. It's nice. It looks nice. And it's beautifully done. Nice special effect. But if you watch the whole thing, it's less than the sum of its parts. It's really weird. It just, in my opinion, I think it's a sweet little movie, but just doesn't have a coherent narrative, thread, because it was scaled down from 10 million to 1.5, and where we cut corners was not where we should have cut corners. So I do blame myself, but I do also think we did an amazing job. It really does look amazing, and there's brilliant people in it, and it was such a joy to work with Matthew Broderick, Chloe Savini. They've been great, and then I shot another one. So I stopped working with Monty a few years ago, kind of as a result of that film. We kind of thought it's running, it was kind of so disillusioning, and I went off and started making films with artists, not musicians, just artists, and then got sent this film last year to make in Houston. So I shot a film in Houston at the end of last year, which is being edited now. We've done an assembly, and it's pretty good, and we're doing some more editing, but that was so joyful, and it was really interesting to do it on my own and just do it myself, and because I've been used to working with a partnership, and so I'd done 5 years of shooting my own things, little short films and stuff, so I was kind of completely ready, which was ridiculous. Of course I was ready, but when you've been in a kind of relationship thing for a long time, and so that's going through post, and there's a couple more maybe on the way. So yeah, Watch out.
We will definitely
Heck
be
yeah.
keeping our
Yeah.
eyes out. So kind of talking a little bit about the partnership. I mean, because a lot of times when you hear about directors, it's just a singular. There's not a lot of co-directors, but you and Monty had made that work for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
How did that kind of work?
Well, it worked because we were very good friends, but we weren't living in each other's lives. So we got on really well, but we didn't like hang out after work. That's really important, you know. I think we had different skill sets. We didn't realize we had different skill sets, but we did. So I was really good at technical stuff. I just was, and Monty was really good at like art department stuff and wardrobe and kind of a different part of the visual medium. And we were both really good editors. Like we were really good. So we would edit all our own videos. We edited Seal and we edited Paula and we did all like for years. I edit all the time now, you know. And so we were great. And so you could kind of, and in the edit, you could, I say save things, but you could make things very distinctive. And so we would do one day on, one day off. And I'd be at the front and editing and he'd be at the back. And then, or, you know, he wouldn't come in and I would. And so we shared duties really well. And we were very good at backing each other up in meetings. So you could go, I think you should be on a donkey emerging from a fire in the jungle, or some ridiculous thing like that. And Monty would go, that's a great idea. Donkey on fire. Brilliant. Right? And so that's always fantastic. And then we had a really good sense of humour. Now in the UK, there's this thing, in the US, when you go like that, it's very rude.
Uh-huh.
In the UK, it's that.
Okay.
So I'd be in a meeting and I'd be talking, going, yes, we're going to do this. And Monty would be there like this, going, is that right? Really childish. You know, or just going, just doing a little wanker sign. And and then and we just had so much fun. So he passed me notes. And I'd be sitting there, and this is when you're meeting like Mercedes, and you get, and Monty like, okay, yeah, and then he passed me a note. I just got past, and I turn over and just say, "Fuck off," because you're trying to stop, make each other laugh in meetings, and that was amazing because then you're more concerned. There was more focus that I'm going to try and get him to laugh and he's going to try and get me to laugh. Then you're nervous about meeting fucking Madonna because you know that in the meeting he's going to be there again. And all this stuff. And so it was very good, and we enjoyed filming process. We were bad to advertising agencies. We were quite bad. In hindsight, it was terrible. We were very disrespectful because we thought, because you don't write the script in advertising, you know, the agency writes it. So you just make it look nice, which is still a really important job. You don't write it, and we were like, yeah, but in music videos, we actually write this stuff. So, you know, because they go, I really like that video you did. And often we do videos and they get copied by adverts, you know, music. We do a music video, then they get copied. And we were like, yeah, adverts, that's just bullshit. Like, they're all fucking wankers. You know, we had this really weird attitude. Music videos really were. We were really music video purists, you know. And so we shared that. We felt really like creators. We fell into that, but you know, still took the piss out of each other. But we had a very similar worldview, and that was the secret. And it kind of slowly soured, I think, just through, you know, you grow up, don't you? We had a good go. We were doing it together for like 30 years or something, nearly. So. But eventually, you know, and in the end, it got just kind of. I felt Monty was, you know, getting fed up with having an opinion, and he wanted to do it, and I got fed up with not being allowed to have an opinion. So we're still friends, but I like it more now. I mean, you know, because I can just do what I like.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
So going from the first music video that you did back in the late 80s and now up into like the new movie that you did, Love is Blind, how would you say technology has changed, or your perspective on how you
Yeah.
approach a project? How has that changed?
I mean, okay, so I think the secret is, I mean, I'm not like on certain projects when there's like the Mandalorian and they shoot in front of these big LED screens. That I haven't done any of that, and I'm not bothered. But in my opinion, filmmaking was always not about the way you film it. Like, it wasn't really about the camera or the equipment. It's about what you put in front of the camera. So the decisions like what's in front of the camera, and that's people, dogs, car, elephant. You know, the standard 3 or 4 elements always. And so there's no technology there. It's people. It's people singing and dancing in music videos, or it's like, you know, it's just what you put in front of the camera is your job as a director. And so it doesn't matter what the technology is. You can have an iPhone or a IMAX camera or anything. You can project it on a high def television, a cinema, or digitally. You get it on your phone. That doesn't matter. It's still what do you put in front of the camera? Right place, right people, right time. That's it. Good script. That's it. And that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed since 1923. So that's my opinion. Is like there's a lot of talk about technology, and I love it. It means that I can make things on my own much easier. That's great. But the skill set, that most of technology you can learn in a day on YouTube. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go to film school, spend a couple of days on YouTube, you'll be fine. Right, then you start making it. That's amazing. That's really good. That's not to be, when I was learning, you'd have to go to some filmmakers co-op and rent a camera, and it was a clockwork camp, like all of that. So it was hard to get going. But actually, outside of the very early start of your career, the technology doesn't matter. It's like, doesn't matter. Not to what the real job is. And I think a lot of people involved in filmmaking now, who are starting out, get really hung up on the equipment and technology. Well, they don't, you see these bullshit fucking things. Oh, look what I can do with my camera. It's like, yeah, but still shit. It's not interesting. It's like high resolution. Okay. So that's what I'd say. And I don't mean to be clear, but I think it's really true that there's a timelessness to filmmaking that transcends the technology. So, hasn't really changed. It's not really got any slower. I mean, because you can shoot digitally and you can do take after take after take. But like, so what? Because the most important thing is after a take, you think about what you've just done, and then do it again, and then talk to the actors or talk to the musicians, and everyone needs a breather. I know, you can shoot 50 takes on, without stopping, and there is something to, but that's marginal. And I think what is really the key is to be on set or on location, set the shot up, do it, and have a bodily reaction to it, an instinctive reaction that you would then adjust things. And so you do need to stop filming, because one of the benefits of digital cameras is that you don't have to reload the camera, for instance, right? Or with film, you have to turn the camera off quick because you don't want to waste film because it's so expensive. So you'd be very careful. And that was true, and it was kind of annoying, but it also was fine because you'd think about what you want to say to Simon Le Bon about how he did his take. Simon, dear boy, don't try and pretend to be Iggy Pop. You're not Iggy Pop. Right? You're a bloke from Birmingham. So let's go again. So yeah, that's what I think about that.
Is there any song that you have heard from any artists in the past or currently that just resonated with you to where you were like, damn, I wish I could have made a music video for that?
I'm sure there are. Oh, okay. I mean, I remember when Vogue came up, and this is a long time ago, but when Vogue came up by Madonna, I was like, oh shit, that's amazing. There's a lot of I can't remember them now. I mean, there's some rock and roll, like Street Spirit for Radiohead. Again, that's an ancient one, and I remember that because we got sent the track, couldn't think of anything to do, you know. But that's an amazing song. So there's a few, but not really. I don't think so. I would say Vogue. I think it's just an immaculate pop song, and I was around. Wouldn't have done such a good job at all. And there's you know, there's some Nine Inch Nails stuff I thought was really good, but no, not really, because I don't think, this is a terrible admission, but it wasn't really, oh, that song's really good. It was more like, oh, that song will allow me to do this kind of idea. Yeah. And after you've done it for a few years, you build up a back catalogue of unmade scripts and ideas. And then, so a song comes in, and first thing you do is you look at the stuff you thought of before and see if you can fit it in, right? So you don't have to be endlessly, you're creative, but you don't bin the old ideas. And so when you get excited by a song, it's because, oh, maybe I can do this idea for it, right? Okay. Even the George Michael one George was recycling something we did with All Saints, you know. And so no, I don't really. What I think is interesting, why I still love music videos and all of this stuff, is like when you see the video, then you think, oh, I wish I'd done that, because like this is the Childish Gambino, This Is America. It's like, that's amazing. That's amazing. Massive Attack. We really wanted to work with Massive Attack all of our career. Oh my God. And we couldn't do it. They wouldn't have us. It was just because they were friends with Soul to Soul, and they were like, nah, they've done we did all of Soul to Soul's videos. And Massive Attack were like, nah, we're going to use other people. So that's my answer. I would have died to do a Massive Attack thing. That would have been great. But recently, no. I mean, the music I like now is all like fucking ambient stuff, and you know, so it's not relevant to, you know, and stuff that you don't make videos for. Because what I think about is songs for music, for films. So I listen to songs in a very different way. So I'm thinking, could this fit in a film, or you know, that's interesting. That could be good in a movie. I may keep a note of that and build up a kind of. I have playlists of songs that from other films, or you know, songs that from singles that. Not that I want to make a video for, but I would like to remember to use that in a film or use something like it. So I think in a different way. So that's quite a shift.
So I kind of going off of that, I kind of would like some insight on this. You might be able to help with us. And so with us, we've been like rewatching 90s things, obviously.
Yeah.
And we've noticed that there's some of like streaming service and everything have different music than what was originally. And so now that you're also doing movies and everything too, do you know why that is? Is like sometimes when it's released, there's different songs than what's originally done in it?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think it's licensing issues and stuff, probably. I mean, it's just like, when you do a deal with usually what happens is when you, if it's music in your movie that is bought from a band, let's say it's a needle drop, what's called a needle drop, you license it for X number of years. So you say, we'll do a deal and it's exclusive rights for 10 years maybe, you know, or 5 years. And then that runs out. And then if the films needs to be re-released, that has to be renegotiated, and it may not go that well for the film. If it's been a big hit, then the artist will want twice as much money, quite rightly. I would imagine that's why. It's just licensing and contracts, yeah.
One more question, not related to anything really, but what was your favorite 90s movie?
Oh, that's a good... you've thrown that on me. I mean, my mind's just going to the really obvious ones. Wow, I need a minute. I'm trying to be arty. I tell you one that I enjoyed. It was Moulin Rouge 90s.
I believe so.
Yeah,
I think
90s,
late 90s.
early 2000s, might have been early 2000s. I think
early.
one that really holds up is Heat by Michael Mann.
Oh.
That's a pretty good
Okay.
movie. That's a pretty good movie. It's
Yeah.
and then I think The Matrix came out in '99, and that was pretty
Yes.
awesome. You know,
Yes.
those, I mean, they're big Hollywood things, and there's some other. I'm trying to think of. Okay, so I was Amelie '90s or was it early 2000s? I think you might. Amelie was amazing. Have you seen that film, the French movie Amelie?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever
Oh
saw it.
my
I
God!
remember putting it back. I used to work, my first job was Blockbuster,
Oh, amazing!
and it was always being rented. So I always remember putting it back, and I never was able to grab a hold of it. So,
You should watch Amelie.
okay.
It's
Well,
astonishing. It's mental how good it is. It's just so good. And then Sexy Beast came out in the '90s. I think Jonathan Glazer's film. That was pretty amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Boogie Nights was pretty fucking cool.
mm,
Boogie Nights is a good picture.
mm-hmm.
There's some English ones, but I'm blanking on them now. But yeah, it was good. I mean, it was again. Here's the thing. I think I know your podcast is '90s themed, and that's terrific. But I think there's not a bad decade ever. All decades have got good stuff. It's quite interesting because you can't. I think there's a tendency to think, "Oh, I wish I was alive then, or I wish I was working then." Yeah, I thought that today I was like, "Oh, it would have been fun to be around in the '40s," but I bet it was shit, and I bet it would have been great. It would have been, you know, it'd been different.
Yeah.
So I think, but I think there was, yeah, the night Quentin Tarantino. I met Quentin Tarantino at my last story,
Oh, yes, please.
and so I met him at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in Los Angeles at the Golden Globes party, and I was staying at the hotel and met him. I met him in a lift, and I was like, "Oh man, it's really good to meet you, man. I loved." And this was like 5, 6 years ago. It wasn't that long ago, 10 years ago. And I was like, "Oh man, I loved your movie." And he went, "Which one?" And he'd made fucking loads. This is like 2015. And I went, "Oh, Reservoir Dogs." And he went, "Well, I've made really, I've made many more." And I went, "I know, but that's the best one." And he was like, "What?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's the best one because it's so simple. It's just you got a load of great actors and you put them in a warehouse. You told a great story. It's like it's amazing." And he was talking about how he'd made what's the kung fu one he did with Daryl Hannah, Kill Bill, the two Kill Bill movies.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah, but Kill Bill, he was defending. He was like, "Yeah, but what about Kill Bill?" And I was like, "No, it's great, man. It's great. It's great." Like really patronising. No, very good, very good. And he was like, "But I studied all these kung fu masters, and I know, of course, yes, easy. I'm just saying, best one." Because when he did that, I was the same. I'm the same age as Quentin Tarantino, and that came out. And I was like, "God damn it, that is so great. It's so simple. You've got such great actors. You told such a great story. I might go and watch it today." It was great, and what was so good about it is it was very inspiring because you felt if you knew a little bit about what you're doing, you could do that. That's copyable. I think when you start out, I'll leave you with this. It's important that you think you can do it, either because it seems achievable or because it's so shit. Of course you can do better, right? That they're the two ways. And I thought Reservoir Dogs was amazing because it felt like if only I had it's not like you need to have tens of millions of dollars to do it. You just need a good idea and some good actors.
Yeah.
So anyway, girls, I think I've talked enough, and I hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been
We
amazing.
have absolutely enjoyed this, Andy. Thank you so much
Okay.
for joining us. Like, this is put a new spin on a lot of the music videos we loved
Okay,
growing
good.
up, and I love hearing all the stories. Again, we are eternally grateful for you to join us today.
All right. Well, I wish you well with your podcast. I hope it goes extraordinarily well and takes over the
you.
world. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Well, you have a wonderful day. Don't party too hard for that coronation celebration.
No, I'm not gonna. But thank you. So lovely to see you, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.